If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Hello everyone and welcome to Maroon Mindset Podcast. Thank you for joining me for this episode. This episode is dedicated to the life and works of George Washington Carver. George Washington Carver was an American agricultural scientist and inventor. He actively promoted alternative crops to cotton and methods to prevent soil depletion. He was the most prominent black scientist of the early 20th century. He was born on the 1st of January 1864 in Diamond, Missouri, U.S., and died on the 5th of January 1943 in Tuskegee, Alabama, in the U.S. as well. He was an educated man, went to Iowa State University twice. Now, George Washington Carver was he developed hundreds of products using the peanut, sweet potatoes, soybeans. He was a champion of crop rotation and agricultural education. He was a pioneer. And he was quite wise as well, as you can imagine. There were a few quotes from George Washington Carver. Over the next 10 to 15 minutes, I'll be just touching on them and asking for us to ponder what it meant to him and what it means to us and what it will mean to the next generation. We need to look to these famous, not so famous, but wise, ahead of their time pioneers in order to make sure that we add value to life and the universe. It's all about enlightenment. George Washington Carver said, "There is no shortcut to achievement. Life requires thorough preparation. Veneer isn't worth anything. So there is no shortcut to achievement. Life requires thorough preparation." And he adds and says, veneer isn't worth anything. So there's no blagging going on here. There is a firm foundation. There's vision. There's planning. There's execution. And there's sustainability. All things that we can recognize and resonate with us in the 21st century. He was ahead of his time, wasn't he? And it's not just about achievement, it's about education as well, because he says education is the key to unlock the golden door of freedom. Education is the key to unlock the golden door of freedom. So we really need to educate our minds and our hearts and our souls in order to be free. And education is not just about sitting in the classroom. Education of the mind. Education, being open. Learning, growing. So veneer is nothing. I want to touch on that a bit. Because, sometimes people will think, oh yeah, just blag, I'll get away with that. But if we're really to be pioneers and agents of change, we need to know our stuff. We need to really be on it, on our A game. We need to really be thinking, how did pioneers like George Washington Carver, Frederick Douglass, who I'll talk about in another episode, Booker T. Washington, I tell you, I have so many more episodes just coming out. I can just feel them coming out. I will be sharing some big news in the next week or two. It's a big announcement. So stay tuned for that. I won't say any more. Don't want to jinx it. But the reason why I mention that is because I'm always quiet. Well, I was always quiet until I realized that I had something to add. And we need to ensure that we look in the world at people who are quiet, not because they want to be quiet, but because they fear what's inside them. There is greatness in all of us, and we sometimes fear it. So what we do, we conform, we try to blend in, become invisible. No one sees us, no one hears us, so they'll leave us alone. But because there's greatness in us that we can't see for ourselves, some people see that and are fearful of us. They see the threat. Really, it's not a threat. It's just that what we are representing, they do not appreciate. So we represent light while they represent darkness. And our light scares them. So what they do, they try to get into our psyche to say, you're worth nothing, you need me. You can't think for yourself. Any ideas you have, run them by me. But we need to stop that. We need to be able to look and to have discernment, to know who are for us and who are not for us. And if it feels like you have to fight to be in someone's life, leave them alone. They've told you. Maya Angelou says, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. I strongly believe that. Believe them the first time. Leave them alone. They're not for you. They're not your tribe. So George Washington Carver, in those days when to be black was seen as shameful, he was a pioneer ahead of his time. And as I said, we really need to be looking more to people like those for inspiration. He says, where there's no vision, there's no hope. So where there's no vision, there's no hope. Where you can't see ahead, you have nothing to look forward to. So it's important to have hope. I sometimes wonder what the world will be in the next 20, 30, 40. We won't be here 40 years. We won't be here to see it, but sometimes you wonder who in this current time will be the ones that future generations look back on and say, yes, there was a pioneer. But if we don't record what we are doing now, the great things that we are achieving now for posterity, they will not be around for future generations. So let us work together rather than against each other. Let us start documenting. Let us start making our mark. Let us start thinking about our legacy, what we're leaving behind. Because if we don't, no one will. We need to be the architect, the builder, the restorer, the groundsman, the head cook and bottle washer. There is no role that is small, no role that is big. We are all kicking towards the same goal because we're on the same team. We have different positions that we play, and we should be able to interchange in our position. We should have humility and grace, that we don't think that anything is beneath us, because guess what? It's not. We are all in the same boat. And if we don't learn to live together as brothers, we'll perish together as fools, as Martin Luther King said. So, surround yourself with the great thinkers. Read their works. Educate your mind and your soul. Remember, veneer isn't worth anything. Be firm. Be grounded, be rooted. Be so strong and firm that when obstacles inevitably get in the way, we are ready to go around them, go above them, go through them. We are really on a wonderful journey of enlightenment, using social change for the goodness of humanity. We cannot waste this opportunity. Let's make sure that people are inspired by us. They can't keep their eyes off us. Do it the common things in such an uncommon way that people marvel. But believe in yourself, because as I tweeted recently, 50 enemies outside. It's better to have 50 enemies outside than one within. Our self-talk is important. What we say, what we feel, we become. So if you tell yourself you're worth nothing, you will be. If you tell yourself you are greatness, you will be. If you tell yourself there's greatness within you, it will come out. If you tell yourself that your life is worth nothing, it will be. If you tell yourself that your life will add value and you will leave a legacy, you will. So your self-talk is very important. It's not about perfection. Perfection is not even a word. My podcast will have imperfections, and that's what makes it real. It's doing the common things in an uncommon way, not caring too much about grammar and all of that, because it's real. It's not a veneer. It's worth something. And it shows that we don't need perfection. As I said, it's not a word. If you're seeking perfection, you'll always be unhappy. Seek greatness. And greatness has nothing to do with wealth. Someone asked Bob Marley once, "Are you rich?" He said, "What is riches to you? If riches is money, I don't have that kind of riches." And he also said, "If my life is only for me and my upliftment and myself, I don't want it. Me no want it," he said. "Me no want it. My life is for helping plenty people." And I tell you, it takes a courageous soul to be able to say that. And I salute Bob Marley for saying that, because if my life is only for me and mine, I don't want it. My life, I agree, and I stand with him, is to help a lot of people. And you help people by just being, by being you, by sharing you, by being real, being able to shed a tear, being able to laugh, being able to smile, being able to be sad, being able to be angry, being able to be human. It helps so many people to be themselves. I know I'm full of quotes, but you know what? It's just coming out of me. Nelson Mandela says, when we shine our light, we unconsciously give people permission to shine their own light. And it's so true. A man who was in prison for 27 years came out and was able to rebuild a nation and to be as calm as a dove, but as firm as a rock. He's a man to be admired. He must have read. He must have enlightened his mind and his brain. Because you don't get to be such a great, calm influence on the world after being through such wrong. After having such wrong inflicted on you and taking away your freedom. If your mind and your brain aren't enlightened. So, George Washington Carver, as I started out by saying, there's no shortcut to achievement. Life requires thorough preparation. Veneer isn't worth anything. As I draw to a close, as I said, I'm excited and buzzing because I have a big announcement in a few days to a week, and I urge you to follow this podcast because we're on a mission to change the world. We are the dreamers. We are the ones who are going to make a difference. And I know you are one of those. That's why you're tuned in. It was ordained. It was destined for you to be hearing this message, for you to be part of this journey. And I want to hear from you. Send me a message. Leave a comment. Like and share. Because it's only by building a community of dreamers, of social shakers, of people who are agitators, who are rebels, who challenge the status quo, that we will make any meaningful change in this world. Stay away from those who don't want you to shine, but are not shining themselves. Because light attracts light, and darkness attracts darkness. So until next time, my Maroons, in everything you do, think like a Maroon. Be a Maroon. The Maroons are people who, as I said before, were not enslaved, but who fought against slavery, fought against injustice. So to be a Maroon, sometimes you feel marooned because you feel isolated, but you are on the right track. And if you can look into your life and think, I am not fitting into that crowd, which is the wrong crowd, you are in the right crowd. The in crowd, the crowd of movers and shakers, not of power and might, but of influence and change, powerful change. So we're on a mission. So join me. Send me your feedback. Walk with me. We're on a mission to make the world a better place. And just by being in this world, we're making it a better place. Let's not waste that chance. Until next time, thank you.